Welcome back to the Range Patriots. Today we are settling a debate that has been raging around campfires and gun counters for decades. We are talking about the two undisputed kings of the lever-action world, the versatile 357 Magnum and the heavy-hitting 44 Magnum. If you are looking to pick up a lever gun, or maybe pair a carbine with your favorite wheel gun, you need to know which of these rimmed cartridges is going to punch your ticket. We are going to break down the specs, the ballistics, the stopping power, and the recoil impulse to see which one earns a spot in your safe. Before we send rounds downrange, go ahead and crush that like button and subscribe to the channel. It keeps us free, and it keeps the content flowing. Now let's get into the brass tacks. Tale of the tape. Cartridge Specifications. To understand performance, you have to look at the pedigree. The 357 Magnum was born from the 38 Special Parent case. On the other side, the 44 Magnum traces its lineage back to the 44 Smith & Wesson Special. Both of these are classic, rimmed, straight-walled cartridges, designed to feed reliably in tubular magazines and cylinders alike. Let's look at the dimensions. The neck diameter on the 357 clocks in at 0.379 inches. The 44 is significantly wider, sitting at 0.457 inches. That size difference carries over to the base diameter as well. When you look at the rim itself, the 357 measures 0.440 inches, while the 44 Magnum stretches out to 0.514 inches. Interestingly, they share the exact same rim thickness of 0.06 inches. Lengthwise, the big bore 44 edges out the competition slightly. It stands 1.61 inches tall compared to the 1.59 inches of the 357. Now, let's talk about pressure, because that is where the magic happens. The 44 Magnum runs hotter. It pushes a maximum pressure of 36,000 psi. The 357 is right on its heels, maxing out at 35,000 psi. However, the real story is case capacity. The 44 Magnum is a beast. It holds 37.9 grains of water capacity. The 357 only holds 26.2 grains. That is a 40% increase in propellant room for the 44. That extra boiler room means you can seat heavier, wider projectiles without compressing your powder charge too much. Historically, the 44 Magnum held the title of the most powerful handgun cartridge in the world. It didn't keep that crown forever, but don't let that fool you. It is still an absolute sledgehammer. Ballistics Breakdown. Let's move on to ballistics. The beauty of these calibers is versatility. You can run light target loads or heavy bear defense hardcast lead. For the 357, you are typically looking at bullet weights ranging from 110 grains up to 180 grains. The 44 Magnum starts where the other leaves off, running from 180 grains all the way up to a massive 300 grains. Barrel length matters here. A 16-inch carbine barrel will squeeze a lot more velocity out of these rounds than a 4-inch revolver. But for this comparison, we need a baseline. We are going to look at the Hornady custom line for our data points. Specifically, the 158 grain XTP for the 357 and the 240 grain XTP for the 44 Magnum. Here is the chronograph data. At the muzzle, the 357 leaves the gate at 1250 feet per second. The 44 Magnum is moving faster at 1350 feet per second. Push that out to 50 yards. The 357 has scrubbed some speed down to 1149 feet per second. The 44 is still cruising at 1230 feet per second. At the 100-yard line, the 357 is doing 1072 feet per second. The 44 is hitting 1133. Ballistic coefficient, or how well the bullet cuts through the air, is pretty similar. The 357 sits at 0.206. The 44 is at 0.205. Now, let's look at the drop. At 50 yards, you are looking at negative 2.67 inches for the 357. The 44 drops slightly less, at negative 2.3 inches. Stretch it out to 100 yards. The 357 drops 11.92 inches. The 44 drops 10.35 inches. But velocity is only half the equation. Energy is the other half. The 357 is putting out 548 foot-pounds of energy. The 44 Magnum? It is stomping down with 639 foot-pounds. While the 357 is slightly flatter shooting in some loadings, neither of these are long-range sniper rounds. These are brush guns. Ballistics on paper are nice, but accuracy comes down to your trigger press and your training. Terminal performance and stopping power. Let's talk about stopping power, or simply put, energy transfer. The 44 Magnum is the clear winner in raw physics. At 100 yards, that heavy 44 slug is going to hit with authority that the lighter 35 caliber bullet just cannot match. However, do not buy into the internet myths. Anyone who tells you the 357 Magnum is weak does not know firearms history. Inside defensive distances, the 357 Magnum is a legendary man-stopper. It delivers over 500 foot-pounds of energy, which is well above the threshold for effective self-defense. It has a proven track record on the streets for decades. But if we are talking about penetration, the 44 takes the lead. Because it uses a heavier projectile, it carries more momentum and has better sectional density. Sectional density is just a fancy way of saying how well a bullet punches deep into a target. For home defense, this is a double-edged sword. The 44 Magnum is notorious for over-penetration. If you miss, or even if you hit, that round can sail through walls and endanger your neighbors. However, if you are hiking in grizzly country or hunting whitetail and hogs, you want that deep penetration. You want to break shoulders and reach vitals. That is where the 44 shines. The Recoil Reality. Now we have to talk about the price you pay for that power. Recoil. Recoil management is critical because if you can't get your sights back on target, you can't take a follow-up shot. If the gun hurts to shoot, you aren't going to practice with it. Generally speaking, the 44 Magnum has a significantly sharper recoil impulse. Let's do a simulated comparison. We will assume a standard 10 grains of powder for the 357 and 15 grains for the 44. For the launch platforms, let's use two heavyweights, the Ruger GP 100 for the 357 and the Ruger Red Hawk for the 44. Here is how the physics shakes out. The 357 Hornady custom load generates about 7.77 foot-pounds of recoil energy. A similar American Eagle load does about 7.68 foot-pounds. Now, brace yourself for the 44. The Hornady custom 240 grain load slams you with 14.96 foot-pounds of recoil energy. That is nearly double the recoil of the 357. The American Eagle load is slightly lighter at 12.88 foot-pounds, but you are still going to feel it. If you are recoil sensitive, or if you need rapid follow-up shots in a defensive scenario, the 357 is much easier to control. The verdict. So, which one belongs in your holster or your scabbard? Despite the raw power of the 44, the 357 Magnum remains the most popular choice for a reason. It strikes the perfect balance. It allows you to carry a lighter lever-action carbine or a more compact revolver. The recoil is manageable for almost any shooter, making it superior for two-legged self-defense scenarios where speed and accuracy count more than brute force. However, if you are walking into the deep woods where you are not the top of the food chain, you want the 44 Magnum. If bears or large game are on the menu, step up to the big bore. Ultimately, it comes down to your mission. If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure you smash that subscribe button and drop a comment below on which caliber you trust with your life. Train hard, stay safe, and we will see you on the next one.